Hey guys, Steve here. Well, welcome back to my YouTube channel again. I've got Phil Demiano from Phil's Camping and Touring next to me.
Hi, how you going, guys? Good morning. Bright and early start today. It's about 6:30.
It's about 6:30 in the morning. I left work yesterday. I was still in my work clothes, wasn't I, Phil?
Yeah, you was.
And just jumped in the car, had everything in the car. Like I was saying in the previous video, we're going to do the install on my new electrical system in my car. And I got Phil here because he's been kind enough to help me out. Like I've said on my other videos, Phil is an absolute self-taught guru when it comes to 12-volt systems.
I don't know about guru.
He is. He's not real modest, and he does know a lot.
I know how to put it together, yeah.
Yeah, so
I've been doing my vehicle for the past 5-6 years. Saved a lot of money in those 5-6 years, guys. So I just buy the components and put it all together.
So what we've actually done, haven't we? We've taken the box out of the back of the car.
Yeah, removed the box because I thought that would be easier. And we've got most of the components here, as you can see.
So this little thing here, that's it hasn't got the circuit board in it, but that is the Ergon DC hub.
Ergon DC hub from Andrew St. Pierre White and Hines over in Perth. So it's both their design, and it's what I've got in my vehicle, as you're aware, and absolutely beautiful. These things are great. So there's not much crimping joints we need to add on this, and which is a less chance of resistance. So everything we're going to do here, we're using thick cables. So we're going to use as little resistance, as little joins as we can get away with. So that's the idea I'm working on here. Because, I mean, to be honest, Steve's going to be pushing some amps through this little baby here. It's a beauty. Very similar in some ways to my Multi-Plus. In fact, it's identical, really. Except it's twice the weight, as I found out. Very similar capacity. Steve's got his 200 amp hour lithium battery, so there's no reason why he won't be able to use this system similar to mine with the similar loads. So yeah, and
I think I bought a new MPT DC to DC as well.
Yep.
So that's the Regency 3050 amp charger. Renogy, sorry.
Yeah, it's got that. So we're going to be wiring this in shortly. So I've got some conduit, guys. I like to hide the cables, and I'm going to work on that. So I'm going to work on, I've got it in a couple of sizes. So we cut these to length, and there's a cover that clips over the top. So we're going to have cables that come in underneath. I could have a piece running up top here, so all the cable runs are going to be hidden inside this. So we're going to try to do as neat a job as possible, and if Steve wants to, the cover that goes on the top, you can paint that black. In fact, I think the one I've got might be already painted black, so I hope he doesn't mind. That's just some leftover I've got from the jobs I've did on my car. So, and have a look on this side here. You can see, now, yes, there is some 240 volt, guys. I'm not going to wire this up because as per regulations here in Australia, it's got to be done by an electrician. But we've got the go-ahead, and it's same when I did my vehicle, guys. I got my electrician around, and I asked him a guidance on where to run the cables, where to put the conduit, where to put these, the switches, etc. And Steve's done a similar thing because he's got his own electrician at home. So we're going to put these, under his advice in location, and the wiring will be left to the electrician. So once Steve is home, he'll be able to get his electrician to wire this up in like 10 minutes. And then they've got all the fancy gadgets to check the earthing and so on to make sure it's properly earth, because it's very critical, and you're talking 240 volts with the vehicle, guys, that it's earthed correctly. Now these have got awesome earthing system in these, the way these work. I believe this works very similar to the Victron Multi-Pluses, where they've got relays in them, and the relays actually uses the vehicle in such a way, as long as it's earthed properly, it uses the vehicle as an earthing point. So if anything such happens and you touch a vehicle, but it'll shut down really quickly. Now, electrician can test all that. So that part's going to be left. But we're going to do all the installation, all the 12 volt cables. I'm going to make up all the cables. I've got a hydraulic crimper, which is we're going to show you. Look how many, I don't know whether we're going to use all them, but we picked all these up yesterday, nice shiny. So these are around about $3.70 each, and there's quite a few there. Now, that's probably going to be all the joints that we're going to use. Once it comes to the Egon DC hub, guys, we just use the bare wires in this. So, and you'll have a look at that. We'll show you that soon.
Yeah, this is just a protective coating. That's actually clear, and you'll be able to see all the fuse boxes and everything in behind this once we get to it.
So when it's finished, hopefully it's going to look really, really nice. So, yeah.
Well, that's about it, I think, at the moment. We're going to get into it. So, stay tuned. We've got a lot to do. We've got a couple of days. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But we're going to try and get most of it knocked over today, I think.
I think so. I'm going to try to, we're giving ourselves, 2.5 days to get this done.
Yep.
I think we'll have it done today.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
we're not going to show you too much as in the process of doing all the wiring and all that sort of thing.
Well, there's a little glimpse here and there. I'll show you how I do the crimping and so on.
When Phil does the crimping, I'll just get the camera out and throw that in there as well.
Yeah.
But we'll show you what it's like when it's finished and show you it all powered up and all that sort of thing as best we can without the 240 volt. So,
sweet.
Cheers, guys.
Shrink cable for that. Background music.
Okay guys, welcome back. It's Monday morning and we've virtually finished the install Sunday afternoon. We had a couple of little minor things we had to finish off, but it was sort of a 2-day sort of in a minute sort of up and down process. It didn't take us like the whole 2 days, but there was a good probably 18 hours.
Saturday was a good full day.
Full day, yeah.
Yesterday we were kind of just mucking around here and there, you know, like we went uptown, went out for dinner, for lunch I should say. Went to a few shops and then came back and we just had little bits and ends to tidy off. So, but as of about 4 p.m, 5 p.m. yesterday, it was all completed as much as what I can do, and the rest is all up to Steve's electrician to do the 240 volt.
Yeah, so like we were saying at the start there, we didn't touch any of the 240 installing it. We have got the inverter running,
Yeah.
but it's not doing anything. All it's doing is just powering on and giving us some information. There's no charge actually coming out of it because we can't, we haven't got the 240 wired up yet.
No,
But
there's just in case, just so they don't get confused, all we did is just put in, I put the fuse box in place, I put the switch in, but if you have a look, Steve will say inside, there's no cables installed anywhere, guys. So we just a bit of spare time yesterday. When we finished it earlier, and I thought I'll put in the cables, you know, just to assist with the electrician, just to make it a little bit quicker for him, so he hasn't got as big of a job then. And in hindsight, then that will work out cheaper for Steve when he's back home, and less work for his electrician to do. But the main thing is that as long as they do all the wiring, it's the same how I done mine. I checked with my electrician first. He came around and I asked him, where can I put this and that? He says, if you want, you can route this through there, such and such. And after I'd done that, he came by and checked it and he said, yep, that's good. You can go, yep, go ahead with that. So then I made all the boxes, put it all together, and rang him up and say, oh, I'm finished. And he popped over and hooked her all up and certified it, and she's been all good. So it's pretty much the same as how Steve's going to be running his system, how it'll be all installed. So
what we might do now is I might hand the mic I'm wearing here over to Phil, and I might get him just to explain. I'll go in more detail later on about all the different products and all that sort of thing, especially when I get the 240 hooked up. And I've got a few little jobs I still got to do. I'll just quickly, before I do, I'll just show you here. So I've still got to make a top for this. I'll do that when I get the 240 wired up, and I'll put a top on here so that that's all closed in. There is temperature sensors and all that in there for keeping an eye on all the temperature of the battery and everything when it's running. The inverter has temperature sensors in it as well. So if anyone's interested, that's what that is. But I'll go into more detail about that later on. But what I'll do now is I'll hand over the mic to Phil, and I'll run around with the camera and he can just explain to you. And we'll go through and talk about the Ergon DC hub, because we did talk about a little bit, touch base on that earlier in the video. And we said we'd show you how all the wiring sort of goes together in it, and Phil might be able to tell you about how easy it is, or not easy, but well, it is easy, but it just makes it simplifies the process in setting one of these systems up. And I'll point to some of the stuff, and Phil can talk in the background there and tell you what everything is doing. Okay guys, we'll get into it.
yeah. Well, good morning folks. It's Phil here. Got control of Steve's little U-Beard camera here. I thought I'm going to start explaining how I started this process by how I normally work. Is that I start off with the battery. So we designed the box, we designed everything where it's going to go, and Steve done an excellent job on that, guys. I've got to admit, I'm amazed how we actually managed to fit such a comprehensive system in here in this small box area. Now, guys, the camera makes this look huge, but when I got here and I saw the size of the box, and I thought, wow, you managed to fit all that on there. So it's awesome. So the only thing we had left to do was just organise where we're going to put everything, you know, where we, I mean, a lot of these were right in the last moment. We installed the items like the switches, etc. And we thought, no, that's not a good spot. We're going to move that in somewhere else. And that's what we've done here, guys. So it's kind of a build process where you start and just go through the end. So I said to Steve, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start on the battery. So we took this box out and put on the bench in my garage. It made it a lot easier, and also kept us out of the weather. So we started wiring it up in the positive. So we've got 65mm cable here. I've made up all the cables. Okay, I've got a crimper, and Steve just purchased by the meter. He just got, what, a couple of meters? 2 meters of each cable, and we had some left over, not much left over the cable, so we just made it. There's probably what 300-400 centimeters left over of each cable. So we start from the positive, go straight to a fuse. 250 amp fuse, which is perfectly for the 2000 watt Renogy charger inverter here, and then that goes to a switch. So that's the main switch, turns on, off everything. And now, but the negative, you can see here, we've got a negative for short lead. Now I suggest to Steve, and I'm in the same situation, is one day look for a copper bar. We'll get a nice thick copper bar, heat shrink around it, and place it between and there, here and there. So I'm going to do the same with mine with all these short runs, and it's perfectly lined up. We've set this up such that the shunt perfectly lines up with the negative terminal on here, as you can see here. So that's something that's a future project, a future upgrade, a copper bar along there. And then we've got again the same here, guys. Use a copper bar through here, going to change one day with a heat shrink covering all the way, so it goes up to here. Actually, this thing might be a little bit tricky to have a copper bar. We might just stick with that there because it's only so much width we've got here. Into the switch, and then out of the switch goes the two main positive. Yep. We'll go back to the negative. So the negative goes into the shunt. So it goes into the battery side of the shunt. And then we've got two, doesn't look like it, guys, but there are two lugs that are leaving from the power side. So one's going to, you can run it through here, it's going through into the battery input on the Renogy. And then the other one, okay, from the switch is right behind here. We've got the power switch that comes in underneath here, and that goes into the positive input into the Renogy. Now you can see the Renogy is already on. It's got inverter mode here, so the inverter will work. Well, actually it won't work. It's working, but obviously the 240 volt is not wired up. And to prove that, here are the outputs for the 240 volts. So they'll come out from here. So one of these is input, one is output. They both run through here. They'll go in under these two. You can see that I've mounted this down the bottom. You can see two inputs over there. They'll go through here. There's your RCBO fuses. One's for input, one for output. One will then go into the input, into this one, which is a double pole 240 volt switch as per regulation. And then the other one, we did, electrician will need to probably change this over to the other side. Although in behind here, there is enough room there to get a cable through, but not enough room to get the conduit to go all the way in there. As per regulations, has to be fully, all 240 volt, has to be all enclosed. If it's not enclosed, has to be inside conduit, as you can see there. So his electrician will work that out, how he wants to do that. Steve will then probably mount his input somewhere over here, so it's nice, well out of the way of the weather. Steve's got his screen here, which no doubt he will mount over there. So that's the battery BMS, the screen that comes with the Renogy, as you can see there. So as you can see, everything is just running through this one switch here, which is capable up to 500 amps you can go through there, and there's no way we're going to go anywhere near that. So instead of having two switches, one for the Egon, one for this, might as well just run it all through the one, because quite frankly, guys, I don't think we would be able to fit anything more in here. And then you just turn it off and it shuts everything down. And Steve's going to make a platform on the top here as well to cover this up. So he'll have a little table platform here where he could set his batteries, etc., accessible to the 240 volt outlet to run, you know, to charge his batteries for his cameras. Okay, guys, now you can see the Egon DC hub by Andrew St. Pierre White and Hines. If you're not aware of Andrew St. Pierre White, he is 4x Overland. That's his YouTube channel, I believe, is 4x Overland. He's basically the David Attenborough of four-wheel driving. So he's designed this unit. So it's a very fancy distributor. okay, DC distributor. So one of the outputs, the positive, runs through, you can see there, runs through into that input there. Very huge, beefy, you can see the size cable there. So we are running 65 mil cable there?
Yeah, AAA.
Yeah, 65 mil cable into there, guys. And you can run, now, if you see the port at above, just go above, you can plug in the ARB twin compressor in there. And you can see the spades for an 80 amp fuse. So that'll handle up to 80 amps. But guys, not only will that handle a ARB twin compressor, you can wire in an inverter in there, but it has to be maximum 700 watts. No more than 700 watt inverter, okay? Anything bigger than that, it has to go wired directly to the battery. Hence why we have the inverter charger wired directly through to the battery and not through the airgone DC hub. So it's about the only DC item in this whole setup that's not wired through the airgone DC hub. Now on the right hand side, right down the bottom there, is the input that comes from the battery, the car starter battery. Okay, so that's the positive and a negative. So that has got a 60 amp fuse that's mounted into the engine bay as per 50 amp, because he's using a 50 amp Renogy DC charger. So we put a 60 amp fuse. Next one above that is the output for the solar panel. Input, sorry, unregulated power input, solar panel, plugs into that. So that is wired to Steve's 160 watt 12 volt solar panel that's on the roof. Steve will show you that now. Okay, and then the next one above that, the coloured one, the green and yellow, I put that like that so to make it obvious to others, so if there's anyone else that works on this vehicle, and to Steve, to note that that is the PV input. Basically, that's the input. Now that runs from the Renogy DC, but we'll go there and show you that. So that's the input. Solar input goes through there. Solar input goes out through the two on the bottom. So you plug your unregulated solar panel into those two that's just below that yellow green. Just above that is your power in from the DC, okay? And then just above that is the negative, the ground, okay? The main ground for your DC charger, also acts as a ground for your solar panel, etc. And then all that would then, the wiring, just the schematic, the way it's designed, will then put the power through to your main cables there on the left and right. So they'll go through and charge your battery. So you all run through here. Okay. Now the rest are all along the bottom here. See all those? They're maximum 25 amp fuses. So you use those smaller spade fuses. And they connect to your USB power, the cigarette lighter. You can see the Anderson plugs, etc. They all plug into there, and you've got 10 provisions there, so you can plug in up to 10 items in there. You can see all the individual fuses. Now if one of them blows, you see the little red LED light. If you get a blown fuse, the corresponding LED light to that fuse will light up and let you know that you've got a blown fuse. So if you've got something in the car that's not working, first thing you got to do, come around here, have a look to see if there's an LED light. If you see an LED light, you know, I got a blown fuse. So all you do, pull out that old fuse and put it back on. And you can see Steve's already put the nice fancy clear Perspex cover over the top. And you can see how we finished off the wiring here. So I like using these 240 volts conduit type things. I'm not sure what you can call them. But if you go to your local 240 volt supplier wherever you live. You can buy these per the 2 metre or 3 metre lengths, I'm not sure. It all varies from one to another. And you can get them in various sizes. So you can see I used the smaller one up there on the right, and I used the bigger one here, so you can hide all your cables in there, and this makes it look a lot neater and tidier.
Okay guys, that's just a quick overview. Phil's explained. It's very simple really. Anyone can do it. If you know how to put a red and black wire in, you can wire up this system yourself. It really is that easy, and it eliminates a lot of the connections that have to do, like on the battery, how we had to crimp all the fittings onto all the cords. With this DC hub, all you do is cut your wire off, cut a bit off the end, poke it in a hole, do up a screw, and that's it, and it tidies everything up. It's a terrific idea. I'm glad Phil put me onto it. If you want to, I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out on their website. But we've got our fridge running, we've got everything running. I can throw some cold drinks in there again. I can use my Travel Buddy oven, and I've got 200 amp hours of lithium battery now that I might even get a coffee machine like Phil's. But
You got no reason why you can't have a coffee
I really got to
machine
thank
now.
Phil. He's done a terrific job. He's a great bloke. If you got any questions, ask Phil in the leave a comment, and I'm sure he'll read them and answer them for you, and I'll send him a message. But thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll also leave a link to Phil's channel so you can check it out. So stay safe, look after each other, and like I always say, make your own path, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
You gotta love camping.